career with ZGF. On large-scale projects, what ways have you seen political influence in design process or vice versa? The design process makes a statement outside of the built environment, but you engaged in committee, volunteers, or other activities that speaks political and architectural or design.
Great. I think, for me, the question about design is political is a really interesting idea. And I'm really excited that this is the title of the symposium this year, especially with everything around the world that we've gone through. If we define politics as revolving around the process of rules, defining rules, and a common standard that regulate human activities, design is by definition the rules and the common standards that we practice by. And the different ways I think that the design profession may be involved in the political situations have, in my mind, are the stakeholders that are involved. That makes the design process political. The public spaces that we impact, our workplace, how an organization is run, as well as politics itself, being part of the policy making of a city. So in my experience, there's different levels of design politics within all of the projects that we touch and all of the interactions we have. And I think shedding light to that is so important for us having awareness of how politics are engaged in our decision making and how we as designers influence that. And so that awareness can help us continue to move it towards a place where it will help others strive together. We can strive for a better place. So some of the examples I can share with you is that, on large projects, we really try to get all of the stakeholders. These are like hospital projects where a lot of people touch the spaces that we design. This is from nurses, doctors, to the facilities department, as well as patients. So we try to get a really good cross-section of individuals in the room to talk about what is guiding us for this project. What is the guiding principle for how we want to proceed with the project and what do we want to achieve from the project? And I think that's one way of an inclusive approach to having a way that design is in politics. Bringing those voices, not only people who will be using the buildings that we design or infrastructures that we design, but people who might be on the periphery that will be impacted by those decisions. And how can we be more aware of our impact in order to make better decisions for everyone? One of the things that I truly believe is that everyone's trying to do their best. Obviously, we all have limitations in what we know and what we think we should be doing. And sometimes informing each other of other viewpoints and being inclusive in hearing those viewpoints, I've always found that we can get into a much better place. As design professionals, we are much more involved in this world than we tend to realize. There are incomprehensible degrees of inequality and unsustainability is, reinforced by the politics and the economic structures that we have. And what we can do as designers, we can improve these conditions instead of further exacerbating it. And being aware of that, I think, is really critical. So, as I said, sustainability is something we've done for a long time, and it's not even a LEED checklist that we talk about. It's about how can we be most sustainable on each of the projects. Back when I had started at ZGF in the late 2000s, I think it was 2006 or 7, we were doing a project. So, I think being aware of who do we go to, what are the process of manufacturing, and tracking that back is something that's been really on the forefront on sustainability these days. And I hope that we can continue to have that dialogue and conversation.
Question is for young designers or women designers, do you have advice or navigation a career in the built environment?
Sure. There's many lessons I've learned, obviously, throughout my career but I think one of the big ones that I'd like to share is that we have to own our voice as women, as designers, as being part of a design process. And I think that's really important for women to know that your opinions matter. And sharing them is important because you bring a unique viewpoint. All of us have our own unique viewpoint. And not having that be at the table impacts our design process because, again, as I was saying earlier, it's kind of the importance of having other differing viewpoints come to the table in order to get to the results that are much better for the whole than just individuals. So, that's kind of always my number one advice is to really own your voice, know that it's important, that it matters. And we all have these little voices in our head that prevents us sometimes being who we want to be or who we are authentically, and being able to listen to those voices and really know that we matter is really important. I think another advice that I would give, I'm not sure it's advice, but I think it's something that could help careers is build your network of people that you can continue to have conversations throughout your career on decisions you'll have to make along the way, input that you may need. Brainstorming. We are in a challenging profession. I think every day brings different challenges. We deal with a lot of different people and entities, from our clients to our coworkers, to the city, to the agencies, consultants, contractors. It's almost like, we need to use different language sometimes with each of these different entities in order to be able to be heard and also to be able to be understood and kind of make progress. So I think navigating that can be difficult as you're growing in your profession. So the more you can build relationships where you can understand how others have done it and how that may help you, I think it's really beneficial.
Did you have a role model in your career that you always got their advice and so forth?
Yeah, when I was younger, I was, after 3 years of working at a firm, I was looking for a change. And the criteria I used at that time, and this is in the 90s, late 90s, was that I wanted to work at a firm that had a woman partner or a woman owner. And I was able to do that. Her name is Susan Eschweiler. And I think that I always looked up to her for how she conducted herself, because I think it's so important to have role models that you can relate to. And most of my role, most of the people in charge as I was moving up in my career were white men. So it was so both refreshing, but also you learn so much more from somebody that you can relate to.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much with your time and for accepting my invitation to this interview. Thank you for your effort and your time. Your response are greatly appreciated. We look forward to hearing you as part of the panel discussion of AWA+D's upcoming symposium and hope to welcome you back in the 100th celebration in 2022.
Absolutely. Thank you.